Welcome back into NFL Daily Live. I am Tom Downey, producer Chris Daughtry behind the scenes on today's show. A busy day once again around the NFL. Two notable news items. Let's go with the trade first. The Ravens getting Diontae Johnson from the Carolina Panthers, plus a 2025 sixth-round pick, with Carolina only getting back a 2025 fifth-round pick that is going to be all of 15 slot difference. How many comp picks there are? Somewhere in that ballpark. Oh, by the way, Carolina's also eating most of the salary left for Diontae Johnson. Ravens paying the vet minimum. A player that had a lot of teams calling about him goes for that. Somebody's lying somewhere because that's not a lot to give up and get back in a trade. So who won the trade for Diontae Johnson? P for the Panthers, R for the Ravens with something in my eye, which will eventually go away. Oh, P for the Panthers, R for the Ravens. The biggest issue against Diontae Johnson, the idea of Diontae Johnson has always been better than the actual football player. And if things aren't going his way, whether it's the win-loss column or the targets in his direction, could tend to be a bit of a diva player, like so many receivers can frequently be. And there's been moments of just straight up bad effort. But they basically got him for free. And for a Ravens team that needs another receiver, and I think a player like Johnson actually fits pretty well because you can let Zay Flowers do some more deep stuff, and Johnson can do some of that too. I think the fit's fine, and they're a contending team. So I like it for the Ravens. The Panthers got nothing. They got absolutely nothing back. So P for the Panthers, R for the Ravens. You can let me know in the comments section of today's show. Nodak, Mike Nintendo Master, voting R. Christian says, terrible trade for the Ravens with his behavioral BS. That is the downside that you potentially run into for the Ravens. You also got a good receiver for free. Now, if he doesn't get enough targets, maybe there's some complaining there, but I think for a half-season rental for free, you'll be able to make that work at least somewhat smoothly enough. Today's show is made possible by Game Time. Game Time has a new feature. It's called Game Time Picks. It makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters at the fluff. Only show you incredible deals on great seats. Don't have to waste time searching through thousands of different tickets. It's curation. So that helps save you more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and everything else in between. Download the Game Time app, create your account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. But again, create your account, redeem code CHATSPORTS, CHATSPORTS, for $20 off. That link will be in the comments section and the description of today's show, which is also made possible by Prize Picks, the best place to get real money sports action. 10 million members, billions of dollars in awarded winnings. Prize Picks makes daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You pick more on less, at least two players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Sign up today. Download the app today at prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That is guaranteed, by the way. You don't need to win. You get the $50 bonus once you place your first $5 lineup. Let's talk Anthony Richardson here. The Colts are benching Anthony Richardson. They're making the move to Joe Flacco. Is that the correct move overall for the Indianapolis Colts? We'll break down different pros and cons here on this particular move. I will save my overall thoughts on it. But is this the right move? And sometimes what is the right move can be determined by what you're trying to accomplish with that team. So is it the right move? Y for yes, N for no. 85% voting yes. Okay. I'm curious how this, once we get to my thoughts on it, if that changes at all. But I have thoughts that you might agree with. That's totally fine. It's opinion shows. You're allowed to have disagreements. Nothing wrong with that one there. Is benching Anthony the right move? Y for yes, N for no. Mike, I'm not leaving Chat Sports. I don't know what the Raiders reporter's talking about. I feel like Mitch might be trolling you a little bit there. Is benching Richardson the right move? Y for yes, N for no. 84% right now voting yes. Only small sample size. What's up, Chris?
I feel like it just comes down to team dynamic on this. Like, you're the quarterback, man. You cannot ask out of the play. You're not a wide receiver. Like, you're not a running back.
Agreed.
You just can't do it.
Agreed. 6 people on the offense that can never ask to sub out of a play. Quarterback and offensive line. You stay. That's how it works. The Colts are saying this isn't because of that. So, I don't know if they're being honest, though. I think there might be a lot of lying going on here with this particular conversation. We'll say that in depth for a little bit here. But I want you guys to name a player, which maybe it's Richardson, because, look, I'll say this before I get to full thoughts. It's done. It's over in Indy for him. It doesn't work. This, like, you start the young guy who you know needs time to grow, and then you make the move back to him. That doesn't work. It's never worked. The last time it kind of worked was Troy Aikman got hurt, and they just stuck with the backup into the when he got a little hot run, and then went back to him once the year was over. But he got hurt, so there was an excuse. Elway got benched. Like, that's the list. Before, like, the Cold War ended. Like that's the list. All these years, that's all you have. Which I'm not sure about my Elway Cold War timing, but I'm just gonna go with it because it sounds funny. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. So name a player who you think gets traded. Let's see. I see Adam Thielen. Makes sense. You just kind of embrace the tank, so to speak. Ecuador man's having fun saying Dak. Let's see what else we got there. Mike Williams of Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is linked to every single wide receiver, and they're going to settle for Mike Williams. Which, like, isn't even that bad. It's just like Devontae Adams, Brandon Ayuk. We're going to get this Cooper Kupp. Mike Williams. Like, that's where it goes. I don't think Kupp gets dealt anymore. McVay kind of came out pretty strongly on that. And I think McVay thinks that they can make a run in the NFC. Ecuadorian Cooks to Pittsburgh. The health is a real question mark there, but it's not a bad idea either. Not a bad idea either. Metcalf, we'll talk about him. They won't trade Brian Burns because that's like one of 2 guys on the defense, maybe 3 guys if you want to kind of count Deonte Banks. Don't trade. Plus, they got some good safeties there. I don't think Stafford gets dealt either. If they'd lost their last 2, I could have seen a full-on fire sale in L.A. Geno, I think, sticks around for now. TV and Sleep says Henderson to the Lions. If the Bengals were to sell, that's a perfect trade for both teams. I don't think that they're going to sell, though. But all valid ones there. Now, we will have a mailbag on today's show. So if you've got questions, thoughts, concerns, ideas, whatever it is, make sure you use that hashtag NFL. I've seen some questions come in, but if you don't use the hashtag part, producer Chris cannot find your questions. They just kind of end up getting buried because there's a lot of comments that come in throughout the entirety of today's show. So we're trying to make Chris's job easier. Use that hashtag NFL, puts you in the queue for Chris to pick your question. You're at his mercy to pick one. Or Super Chat, and we will make sure you get on the show because we want to say thank you. Speaking of today's show, if you want us to get today's show going, then like the video right now. Goal is always that 50% like ratio. We're not that far away, but we're closer to a quarter in terms of likes than we are anything else. So please and thank you. Like today's show. I know Ecuador Man already did. Coming up on this live edition of NFL Daily, news and rumors. Funny how back-to-back Tuesdays, things get crazy all of a sudden out of the blue. We'll have a mailbag, as mentioned. Use that hashtag NFL or Super Chat to skip the line and get in no matter what. And we'll talk Anthony Richardson trade destinations because whether the Colts want to admit this or acknowledge it internally or publicly, it's over. Doesn't work like this. You can't bench the young guy to try to have a growth opportunity and then go back to him. Doesn't work that way. It's just, at least not with the same team. Work out in other places, but not in the same team. Break that all down coming up on today's live edition of NFL Daily. We're a week away from the 2024 NFL trade deadline, so should we go live this year? Should we break down all the trades as they happen, hang out, and spend time discussing the most important thing of that particular day? If you want us to, like the video right now. Before we get into some trade rumors, some news that we have to get into here on NFL Daily. The Baltimore Ravens have acquired Diontae Johnson for a 2025 sixth-round pick, only giving up a fifth-round pick in exchange, so that's like 15-ish, maybe 20 if you're lucky, depending on comp picks. Pick swap difference there for a half season of Diontae Johnson for a player who also, by the way, the Panthers are eating most of the base salary for. A lot of interest in Diontae Johnson has been the reporting. Are we sure about that? Because that's basically free. Someone is maybe not being truthful. There's some attitude stuff concerns with Diontae Johnson, but the Ravens had two good wide receivers. This is a third one. He's better than Aguilar, I'll tell you that much. So who won the trade? P for the Panthers, R for the Ravens. Let me know in the comment section of today's show. That might not be the biggest news, though, of the day. The Colts are benching Anthony Richardson already in favor of backup quarterback Joe Flacco, as in two straight different years and different teams, Joe Flacco has been the better backup to the guy that was more invested in both Indy and in Cleveland, which is honestly kind of hilarious. I'll say this. Now, the Colts have said this wasn't about the whole subbing out for a play due to being tired and fatigued. I don't know if I believe them, because I'll be honest, that is a joke. Subbing out because you were tired as the quarterback is stupid. You don't get to do that. That's not how it works. You're the quarterback. That is an embarrassment. And the locker room can turn against you with that kind of stuff. Like, you're subbing, you're our leader, you're subbing out. What are you doing? Quarterback doesn't get to do that. Doesn't make any sense. Now, the Colts are saying, well, that's not why we've done that. We're not making that decision. That's not the reason. They keep saying that this is not a benching, it's a break. Okay, this is no different than when you break up with your girlfriend or vice versa, and one person says, we're not broken up, it's a break. No, you've broken up. You're done. It's not going to work. You can try to get back together later. It is not a happy ending. It does not end well. Outside of Troy Aikman, kind of, sort of. John, that's it. Richardson was not playing well. That is absolutely true. Alex, not all his fault, but you don't complete 44.5% of your passes only because the supporting cast is terrible. Like, he was not playing well. When the same guy that's replaced him now in Joe Flacco was much better as a passer. That's very clear. We know that. But we also know this was also kind of the plan. You drafted the young raw guy knowing he was going to play like a young raw guy and you were going to have a multi-year plan for him. Now you're bailing 7 full games in? Something does not pass the smell test here. And I wonder if this did not come down from Shane Steichen, if this came down from ownership. And ownership says, I want to win games now. I don't want to, I can make the playoffs. I don't want to keep losing. And mandate was play your best guy, which is Flacco right now. More thoughts on this to come. But is benching Anthony Richardson the right move? Y for yes, N for no. Go vote at the pinned comment of today's show. The whole reason you drafted Anthony Richardson was to get the next Josh Allen. Now, the likelihood of that bet hitting, we can have that conversation. That's fine. But the numbers for their first almost identical passing attempts, similar-ish numbers of games. Richardson's played 10 games in the NFL. That's it. The numbers, they're nearly identical. Like, bad completion percentage, not that great yards per attempt, good rushing ability, more touchdowns, similar turnovers. The numbers are identical. Now, look, to an extent, this is chasing the dragon of Josh Allen, which isn't going to happen very often. But this is what you signed up for. You drafted Anthony Richardson, the raw, young, immensely gifted quarterback, knowing he's going to have his lumps. He's not going to play that well. He was 20 years old when you took him. You have to give him playing time. You have to give him reps. Now you're benching him 7 full games in? What is your plan, Indy? If your plan is, hey, we got to win games right now, no matter what, Sure, that's Joe Flacco. He's clearly better right now. I don't think anyone's going to argue that. Also, why is your DC still there? Doesn't make much sense. But if your plan is to put your franchise in the best spot possible, isn't that Richardson long-term? Or at least the hope of Anthony Richardson? Can you really go back to Richardson now? The Colts are saying, hey, this is not a benching. This is a break. This is going to be a growth opportunity for him. He needs reps. He's like 22 starts since high school. Those guys don't get better sitting. It doesn't work like that. Ask Trey Lance. By doing this, whether they want to admit it or not, the coach saying it's over. It's not going to work for Anthony Richardson because this has never worked. When was the last time the young, raw quarterback started a bunch of games, got benched, and then the team went back to him and it was all fixed? Kind of Troy Aikman in 1991, but he also got hurt and they just rode the hot hand and then came back to him. John Elway, those are extreme outliers. You are saying that we value that 8 or 9 win season a lot more than the long term. And I get that. If the locker room is mad, I get that. Trust me, I do. But the locker room is also going to be mad if you win 8 games and you have a new veteran quarterback in the next offseason. That's what you're doing here. Like, you're going to be in the quarterback market again this offseason, which is a bad market. You're going to be going, oh, let's try Anthony Richardson again, even though he hasn't played and hasn't got any better yet. And it's going to be Daniel Jones and Justin Fields, which is like just playing the A-Rich game, but with a more known quantity. Like, I don't know. Here's a big takeaway, too, NFL-wise. If you're a young QB, the value of the contract is very valuable. Don't get me wrong. But you're not going to get developed right now. We've seen this a lot. Teams are not sticking by the young QB. They are not giving them time to grow and learn once they start playing. Maybe with the benefits about NIL, it makes sense to go back to the Bill Parcells ways of getting those 3 years starting and then ending up in the NFL. Now, today's show is made possible by Game Time. Game Time is the place for last-minute tickets to your next big event. They've got a feature called Game Time Picks. It makes getting tickets to your favorite teams play live even easier. It filters out the fluff to only show you the incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. It is simply curation, designed to make it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and anything else in between. The all-in pricing feature shows your total cost up front once you toggle it on, so there's no surprise fees at checkout. The Game Time guarantee is this. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So download the Game Time app, create your account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Now, terms apply. But again, create your account, redeem code CHATSPORTS, CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Let's talk trade rumors. There's a week till the deadline. How can we not here? Las Vegas Raiders owner Mark Davis was very adamant this weekend in a ESPN conversation, or maybe messaged, ESPN is better, that the Raiders are not going to trade Maxx Crosby. Mark Davis's email to ESPN was the old all caps, every word email. We're not trading Maxx Crosby before or after the trade deadline. And by the way, there were a lot of jokes about, what do you mean by after the deadline? You can't do it afterwards. It's called the offseason, guys. Like, that's clearly what he meant. You're not trade him now and not once the year's over. That's how I took it, and I don't know how anyone else took it otherwise. Context clues here. I'm not surprised this is the Raiders' take, and I'm not surprised there's been rumors on it because teams have called. And this is one of those, I'm sending it to Schefter, so he tweets it out, and everybody in the world knows it. Maxx Crosby is a dog. There's a handful of players, especially along the defensive line, the trenches, that I enjoy watching more than Maxx Crosby. Unbelievable work ethic, unbelievable energy. Almost every down player defensive end doesn't really exist very often. Has barely missed any snaps in his NFL career. He's awesome. He is an awesome football player, and he's actually kind of affordable. Now, his cap this year for the Raiders is $30 million. The cap hit and the cash owed, which is what the new team would have to pay him if they traded for him, actually drops each season. Now, there's no guaranteed money left. I think there is a very obvious solution that's going to happen after the season ends because the Raiders already kind of gave Crosby some more money. He's getting a new contract after this year. They're going to extend him and make him, if not the highest paid defensive player in the NFL, one of the highest paid players in the NFL. So in the next year-ish, what is more likely for the Raiders and Maxx Crosby? T, if they trade him and the Lions get to bring the Eastern Michigan guy home, or E, if they're going to extend him? Let me know in the comments of today's show. Now, look, Crosby doesn't want to trade either. And sometimes, everyone's got their own podcast these days. And when you're a beloved player, nobody cares about it. When your team's winning, no one cares about it. But it's also ignored sometimes. And Crosby has already answered this last week on his podcast. I'm sitting here innocently and just doing what I do. I feel like I got to address it with my teammates. I'm like, I'm not trying to leave. I don't have 100% control and all that, but I want to be here. I want to be silver and black. I'll say it loud and effing clear. I want to be a Raider. I've said that over and over and over again. He's not lying. He has said that a lot. You can ask my boy, Mitchell Renz. This has always been a pipe dream from other NFL fan bases. Now, he wants to win. He doesn't want to be here for a big-time rebuild. And the Raiders are kind of in this weird spot of I don't really know what they are because the quarterback thing is super weird right now. But Crosby's not getting traded. Never say never, whatever. I don't foresee it happening. Now, our next goal here on Chat Sports is 385,000 subscribers. 352 away. I'd like to get there before NFL trade deadline so we can make 386 the next big number. Hit that sub button so you don't miss out. YouTube.com/chatsportstv. Let's talk DK Metcalf trade. This is from Jason Lockenfora, so asterisk it. That's why it's in the rumors section. He reports that several teams have reached out to the Seahawks about a potential DK Metcalf trade. Here's what JLC wrote for the Washington Post sports section. Brace yourself for DK Metcalf to become this week's Cooper Kupp, which, by the way, hasn't happened yet. The subject of plenty of chatter. Enterprising GMs are reaching out to Seahawks GM John Schneider, as they have in the past, but interested parties aren't optimistic. Metcalf is one of Schneider's favorite players, and at 4-4, the Seahawks are in the playoff hunt, despite losses in 3 of the past 4 games. But widespread injuries have increased demand for receiver help, and the deals already have diminished the supply. I bet Pittsburgh called. Promise you that one there. Metcalf, if Seattle wanted to, it's actually very movable. The way his contract is structured, it's a $15 million cap hit. The cash is basically zero. You would owe DK Metcalf the vet minimum this year and $18 million next year. Now, at this point in his NFL career, I think we mostly know what and who DK Metcalf is. You know, he doesn't turn 27 till December, but this is mostly what you're going to get. Now, he's putting up numbers that are more closely in line to his elite 2020 campaign when he went for 1,300 yards. But every year of his career, the worst that DK Metcalf has done is 900. And that was his first season. He'll get you 1,000 yards pretty consistently. He is a dynamic vertical threat. He's got big size. He can't do the 3-cone drill. Nobody cares. He's a good football player. I think Seattle's more inclined to pay him again this upcoming offseason than trade him. But if a team gets desperate, the contract's affordable. Nothing wrong with trying and calling, at least. We got a mailbag coming up next for you guys. There are 2 ways to get on the show. Use hashtag NFL or skip the line and super chat. You can take any and all NFL questions, thoughts, etc. Aiden says, I bet you the Cowboys reached out to the Seahawks about DK. No, they didn't. That ownership already told you they don't make the calls. They let people call them. They're not picking up the phone. Promise you, they did not. Promise you. But get your questions in either way. Hashtag NFL or skip the line via Super Chat. Get them in right now, and we'll talk whatever you guys want to talk about on today's show. You guys are watching NFL Daily. I am Tom Downey. We're answering your questions as chosen by producer Chris behind the scenes. Steve H., what team is waiting for the weekend results to either be big sellers or big buyers? I think it's probably less of like you're waiting to see if you're going to buy or sell and more hold or buy or sell, if that difference makes some sense. you're probably looking at the fringe teams then. Like, okay, are you good enough or not? Chargers at 4-3 could fit that mold. Maybe the Bengals at 3-5. Now they're not a trade happy team. Dolphins at 2-5 could stand out there a little bit. I'd say Jacksonville at 2-6, but they already sold once, so probably not them. Dallas gets blown out by Atlanta. They might sell because then they're 3-5 and not in a great spot. The entire NFC West, they're all 500 or worse, and only not 500 all because the Rams have played one less game than the rest of them. Saints, maybe? I think your buyers and sellers are mostly clear right now. That's why I wish the trade deadline was one more week after than what it is right now. Ecuador man, what Jets do you think end up getting moved? Mike Williams is the obvious one. Like, you have Garrett Williams, you have Devontae Adams, Alan Lazard is, Aaron Rodgers' favorite player. I don't know what they're going to do with Malachi Corley. Probably not this year, but like he doesn't play at all. If they really, truly wanted to sell, Tyron Smith. Play Olu Fashanu instead. Now, Smith has not been that good this year, but he's an NFL left tackle. Those guys aren't available. That'd be an extreme sell for a GM that, if he does that, is probably going to get fired. That's kind of the dangers you run into of like, yeah, you're still kind of fighting for your job status there. What are you really going to do? Maybe they don't go down that path. Braden Eccles is a backup corner. That's, he and Mike Williams are like the easy sell pieces. Austin, will the Bengals finally trade T. Higgins? No. And in fact, I think the Bengals need to pay T. Higgins. Truly, I do. I get that they keep saying we can't pay Burrow and Chase and Higgins. That's fine. Who else are you going to pay on this team? Hendrickson's one. Cam Taylor-Britt keeps getting shuffled in and out of the lineup. You've paid your linebackers. You don't have young rookie contract talent right now that's needing to be paid. Just pay T. Higgins, because when Burrow, Chase, and Higgins are out there, that is the best offense in football, or at least one of the top three. Like, they consistently put up big numbers. Their efficiency's off the charts. Now, Higgins can't stay healthy. That's a huge issue there. But the Bengals are not going to sell. They don't like selling. I think that they are more likely to just do nothing. Do nothing. And ride it out, because that's the Bengals' way in the end. So what do you think for the Bengals is the best T. Higgins plan? P for pay, T for trade, K for keep. Go vote the pinned comment of today's show, especially if the ad comes here on YouTube. From Mikey, do you think Anthony Richardson is a better option in New York the rest of the season than Daniel Jones? So first off, if you're watching live, keep watching. Anthony Richardson trade destinations will feature the New York Giants. If you're watching on demand, links in the comments for you. I do. And that is because I know what Daniel Jones is. It's not good. We have enough sample size. He was never good at Duke, by the way. I don't care what people say. He was not a good draft pick. He wasn't even that good in their playoff run. It was the defense and everyone else carrying him. He didn't play that great. Just didn't make mistakes. There's not enough big plays. Richardson gives you big plays. Now, there's a chance it's even worse, but the upside is undeniably better. And I think Dable's actually a pretty good fit for him, since that was the thing that worked with Josh Allen, too. Helped him grow. I think absolutely yes. Now, the question is, would you give him next year, too? If the answer is yes there, I'm all for it. Jonathan G., if Dallas could take top 10 pick, would you target Michigan defensive tackle Mason Graham, Missouri wide receiver Luther Burden, or Georgia safety Malachi Starks? So my first answer is yes. Happy with any of those guys. That is the best safety, probably receiver number 2, and the best interior defensive lineman. Now, from a trauma standpoint, I don't know if you can get Cowboys fans on board with another Michigan player, especially a Michigan defensive lineman. But don't helmet scout. Mason Graham is really friggin' good. He's awesome. He's going to be a consensus close to it top 5 player in the class. Like he is what you don't have up front, but it's Michigan and that kind of scares you. Malachi Starks is a safety, but he's awesome. They don't value safety, so my hopes are low there. I do think Luther Burden would be a very impactful piece. Another receiver that can get open, do yak stuff, be a good fit with what you don't have alongside CeeDee Lamb right now. Today's show is made possible by Prize Picks. It is the best place to get real money sports action. Over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to up to 100 times your cash. You can run your game all season long on Prize Picks. It is the best place to get in on action on sports over 30 states: California, Florida, Georgia, and Chat Sports is home in Texas. It is the only real money daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance policy. So I have stay and play. Even if someone gets hurt in the first half and does not return, Prize Picks will keep your lineup live. You just got to pick at least 2. My boy Harrison Graham this week, riding with this one. Caleb Williams and Kyler Murray, both more than on the rushing yards in that particular matchup. You can ride with Harrison or make up your own Prize Picks lineup. And you get $50 instantly once you play 5. You don't even need to win to get the $50 bonus. It is guaranteed. Download the app today at prizepicks.com/CLNS to get $50 instantly once you play your first $5 lineup. Links in the comments and the description of today's show. From Mike Nintendo Master, are the Chiefs done trading? Probably. They've got their extra edge rusher. They've went out and made the move already for DeAndre Hopkins. I don't. Maybe they could do something like trading away someone like a Cam Thomas. I could see that. Because I don't know how he's going to get on the field ever. But I wouldn't expect a lot more. Nothing. I don't think anything else big. I think that team is probably mostly set, which is funny because the quarterback hasn't even played well and they're undefeated. It's great. DC times Viper. Who do you blame for the Bears meltdown against the Commanders? The coaches or the players or both? Look, both is the cop-out answer, but it's also right. There were mistakes made by everybody. You don't let them get that little 5-yard quick out. Take that away. But it also shouldn't have mattered. Tyreek Stevenson, what are you doing, my guy? You are a pro athlete. You are a grade school level athlete. You don't need to be told, hey man, the game's going on, don't celebrate. Just pay attention to what's going on out there. Someone was like, oh, they're people. Yeah, but I know that. My toddler knows you don't give up till the game's over. Come on. That's inexcusable, and that's not really coaching to me. That's just your players aren't doing their job. Now, what is coaching is the play before that, and you handed it off to the guard on the 1-yard line? What are we doing out here? You're a backup guard, by the way. Why? How does that make sense? That's just a dumb play call. So the answer is everything. There's no reason they should have lost that game. And if they keep losing these close games in these situations, that's not worthy of keeping the head coach around. Sean, will the trade deadline being pushed back equal more trades? I hope so. I still think 2 weeks is probably the better answer here because I thought it needed to be pushed back before they added the extra week already. So I think mid-November is actually a better time. Before you get to the Thanksgiving wonkiness schedule stuff. I think pushing it back an extra week or maybe even 2 is actually better. But I am hopeful that you do get more trades because trades are fun. It's entertainment. And I also think it makes teams in a better spot both ways. The contenders are in a better spot, and the pretenders are also getting better assets back to rebuild. So how many trades between now and the NFL trade deadline? Right now from when you're watching. Get those predictions in for me in the comments section of today's show. Amir, the Lions fan, what player do you think the Lions get realistically? I think the more realistic but also still really good pickup is somebody like Zadarius Smith. Now, maybe it's not actually Smith, but someone in that ballpark who can help replace the massive loss of Aiden Hutchinson. You need another pass rusher. We'll see if James Houston can kind of get going a little bit here, but Isaiah Thomas is not a long-term solution for you. It's just not. Or even a short-term option. So I think somebody like Zadarius Smith would be a really good pickup for the Detroit Lions. Now, we will be live for the 2024 NFL trade deadline. Myself, producer Chris, will have you guys covered for the entirety of the deadline. So don't miss out. We'll break down every trade as it happens. Hit that sub button, youtube.com/chatsportstv. LaCoura Victor, could the Bengals sell Trey Hendrickson in the deadline? Again, I would be surprised. This is no different than the T. Higgins conversation. Hendrickson's awesome. He is the only Bengals pass rusher consistently getting pocket push. Bengals, frankly, need another guy to help get after the QB, if not two guys, which they've got some young players that haven't developed yet, which has been their issue as of late. I would be stunned if they traded him because they need him, and they don't want to give up on the season quite yet. Christian, if DK requests the trade, Pittsburgh would be the number one destination, right? Because Wilson is DK's homie. They'd be the number one destination even if Justin Fields was still playing. It's Pittsburgh wants another receiver. The DK Pickens combo sounds pretty funny, but remember, Russell Wilson doesn't throw over the middle very much. There's a lot of deep shots, which is fine. It's got a great moon ball still. Pickens and Metcalf fit that pretty well. So like Russ or Fields, like Pittsburgh wants a receiver. I think that very much makes sense. Bobby, Trey Lance to the Raiders. Who says no? The Raiders do. Like Lance looked better than Minshew and O'Connell in that preseason game. Cool. By the time Trey Lance gets up to speed, you're 3 weeks from now, 2 weeks from now. Season's over, half gone. He's a free agent. He needs a lot of reps, but he's under contract. You're still going to take a quarterback probably early in the draft because Lance isn't going to be able to prove enough to you because there's no way he's going to do it. That's not what we've seen so far. I don't think Lance has any real trade value. Cowboys fans keep hoping and praying. You're stuck with him, I think. So before we get to the trade deadline, name a player who you think ends up getting dealt. Let me know in the comments of today's show. From past, Justin Herbert needs a number one wide receiver. Any idea who the Chargers could target? The available wide receiver crop of guys who I think are actually available is kind of thin right now. Hilariously, Mike Williams is actually kind of what they need a little bit of. They could use a bigger body on the outside. Loud McConkey's a nice piece. I think in reality, they're probably better off just waiting until the next offseason. The Chargers, to me, are kind of in a, hey, we're not bad, but this has always been a retooling, rebuilding year. Let's not put all of our chips in right now. Let's be a little bit patient and take a longer-term view than just 2024. From We Know Wife, these 304s, a $2 super chat. Thank you, my friend. Will the Cowboys get a top 10 pick? Need to replace Ezekiel Elliott? Honestly, I kind of hope you don't just go right back to the whole, hey, we're going to spend no assets to all the assets on the back. Now, if you spend money in free agency, you can talk me into the Ashton Jeanty conversation. It's a good running back class. Honestly, I'd spend a day 2 pick and a day 3 pick on the spot. That's what I would do. And I'd spend my top 10 pick on a receiver, a trench player, a safety even. And then I'd get, I can do Nick Singleton and Taj Brooks on day 2 and day 3. And that's a fun idea. Thunder and Lightning right there. I guess Lightning and Thunder. That might be a bit more valuable than, as good as Jeanty is, might be a better use of your assets. But you spend money and fill all your needs, Jeanty might be the best guy on the board. Just saying. Now, this is not the only live show planned for today, folks. My boy Jack Lottery will be back for a potential closeout game of the World Series. Dodgers going for the sweep against the Yankees. Lots of stuff to watch. Will Shohei Ohtani kind of get back on track? Will Aaron Judge do anything in this series? Ohtani's banged up. It's fine. And he's drawing walks. Whatever. But the meme of the Yankee Cowboy fan is down bad right now.
Imagine being a Yankees fan and a Giants fan right now.
Marshall Green. Neither team's hitting that well. Dodgers are 213. Yankees are 186. But one team has double the extra base hits. So when the hits are more valuable for the Dodgers.
Freddie Freeman's just going crazy.
He's an MVP, right? He has to be. It's just even if they win in 7, he's the MVP, right? Who you got? D for the Dodgers, Y for the Yankees. We'll get to our last segment, but make sure you check back in for the World Series watch party with my boy Jack Lotta-Ray. Before we discuss some more trade destinations, this time on Anthony Richardson, we will be live for the 2024 NFL trade deadline. So make sure you guys are subscribed. Hit that sub button, youtube.com/chatsportstv. Anthony Richardson was benched on Tuesday by the Indianapolis Colts. His future's in doubt. Now, Indy is saying, well, this wasn't about him subbing himself out. Okay. They're saying, we're not done with Anthony. This is just a break. Look, benching your quarterback is usually the end of him with your team. It's kind of like if you and your girlfriend go on a break. I know it's over. Like, you're on a break, but you've broken up. Like, it very rarely does it all end up being a happy ending, and normally it's ugly and toxic along the way in the process. So, in reality, the Colts have given up on Richardson after 7 full games. 7 games of a dude that was 20 when they drafted him. That they said that they knew, hey, we're aiming for the Josh Allen archetype here. Took Josh Allen 3 years to hit his kind of stride, and he was even older than Richardson was, and they're out after 7 games. It reeks of ownership interference to me. There's trade value here. Contract's not that bad. The arm strength and mobility is still incredible. It's the down in, down out consistency is simply not there. We all know that. You're not interested in Anthony Richardson for what he is right now, because right now he's not playing well. We all know that. It has not been pretty out of Richardson. It's actually been fairly ugly. But it is the idea of AR that is intriguing. I almost called him by that name. I don't want to go by anymore. It is the idea of, I've got the most athletic quarterback prospect ever, who's like 22 years old, and is younger than like every guy in this draft class, and I can have him for 2.5 years, potentially a 5th-year option too. It's actually intriguing for NFL teams. There is a trade market there. He's not owed very much money. $2.3 million, about half that actually if he's traded. 3.84 next year, 5.4 in 2026. That's backup quarterback money. That's like cheap backup quarterback money. Then there's the 5th-year option. Indy saves basically no money if they trade him, especially now. This might be more of an off-season type of move, and maybe they didn't go back to him like the Panthers went back to Bryce Young. Look how that's going. Once you do it, it's over, folks. Do you think the Colts should trade Anthony Richardson? We'll make this the pinned comment on today's show. So if the ad comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there and let me know. Y for yes, N for no. Let's break down some trade destinations for Richardson. Now, in a way, you can cross off most NFL teams here. You know, if your quarterback is under contract for the same time Richardson is, it doesn't make any sense. Because you're just going to ride that guy out. If he's a good quarterback, I should say. And if you're a bad team with a bad quarterback, timing's not great. Because you're not a good team. You probably aren't going to get the best play this year out of Richardson because he's learning a new offense. It'll take some time. There will be the ups and downs he's facing right now. You're going to be drafting early. Do you go QB right out of Richardson? If you trade for him and make him your starter, you're kind of hitching your wagon to him. If you are a bad team. So you might just embrace the 2025 NFL draft because the hope and optimism around the new toy is more intriguing than the toy you just traded for, right? I also have a joke trade idea. Who says no? Richardson for Bryce Young. Who says no? Probably both sides, actually, because they probably both want picks. But it's funny enough to at least bring it up. So both quarterbacks kind of in similar spots, by the way. Early round picks haven't gone well. Quick triggers on pulling them. Technically quicker on Anthony Richardson because he played half the games. But if you had to have one guy, you had to keep one guy, who would it be? AR for Anthony Richardson, BY for Bryce Young. Let's go from 6 to 1, my 6 favorite destinations here. The Jets, number 6. Or number 6, I should say. Look, this is kind of in the weird fit category. Aaron Rodgers has a limited time left in the NFL. It is no more than a year and a half, I feel like. They spent a 5th-round pick on Jordan Travis, I think as a backup in the NFL, and he's on the NFL list anyway. The biggest issue against a potential Jets trade is this. You are going to have a new coaching staff next year, and you'll probably have a new GM. So a future trade for a quarterback that's going to ride the pine for a year and a half, probably doesn't make the most sense for New York. But if Rodgers goes down, you could give Richardson a chance. So it's 6 for a reason for me. Number 5, and I like my top 5 more than I like most. Big drop off from 6 here. That is the Las Vegas Raiders. We all have eyes. Some work better than others. Like I wear contacts. I'm kind of blind without them. Even without my contacts in, I can tell you the Raiders quarterback room sucks. It's bad. It's Minshew is Gardner Minshew. Aiden O'Connell's not a starter. They have nothing short-term, nothing long-term. Richardson gives them significantly more upside than what they have, and they wouldn't have to draft a QB. Now, maybe they want to. This could be an obvious Shadur Sanders destination. I also wonder if Luke Getsy is the right offensive coordinator for Richardson or, frankly, any quarterback in the NFL. The Raiders are 5 because they need him. They need a better quarterback, I should say. But I kind of question the fit. Today's show is made possible by Game Time. Game Time is a new feature. It's called Game Time Picks. It makes getting tickets to your favorite teams play live even easier. It filters out the fluff to only show you the incredible deals on great seats. So you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of different tickets. It is curation designed to make it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, everything else in between. The all-in pricing feature, toggle it on to see your total cost up front, so there are no surprise fees at checkout. You can get a panoramic view from your seat before you buy as well. And the Game Time ticket coverage is the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So if you're buying tickets to any event, use the Game Time app. Don't be silly. Download the Game Time app today. Create your account. Use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. But again, create your account. Redeem code CHATSPORTS, CHATSPORTS, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's Game Time. Number 4, the Cleveland Browns, which it's kind of like, I think, a fun under-the-radar destination here. There's no way around it. The Browns are stuck with the Deshaun Watson contract. He was terrible this year. Now he's coming off an Achilles injury. You're just stuck with that contract. So you really can't afford to sink more significant money into the quarterback spot because it's just not feasible. Now, Jameis Winston is better than Watson and Richardson, but I don't think he's a long-term solution for the Browns. They might win enough games to take themselves out of that top 10 pick conversation with Winston, frankly. But they're also not going to be a top 10 team with Winston. So adding a cheap, young, big-armed quarterback that, look, they can hit the go balls they hit last year with Flacco. Winston was chucking bombs. He's got a big arm. I think that fits actually pretty well, and the contract cost makes it intriguing. If you're looking big picture for Cleveland, going after Richardson and kind of having that same window of trying with him while you're stuck with the Deshaun Watson contract, I think matches up actually super well for Cleveland. I got 3 more teams to go to here, and I think they're 3 of my favorite fits here. I do like the Browns a lot too, but there's talent. Who do you think will end up trading for Anthony Richardson? Let me know in the comments of today's show. Number 3, the L.A. Rams. And we mentioned them for Bryce Young for similar reasons. Like Matthew Stafford is the starter in L.A. But for how much longer? There was some contract issue stuff that went on this offseason. They can get out of that contract with pretty limited issues if they wanted to. He turns 37 this offseason. He's getting up there in age. Sean McVay has done good work with quarterbacks. I also don't know when or if Richardson would get any reps. It's probably not going to come this year. So now you're down to 2 years, but he knows the offense. If you move on from Stafford, it's a better version of the Jets option. You sit him for a year and then get him going. And you got a much better coaching staff in LA than you do have in New York by a pretty easy option. Number 2, the Seattle Seahawks. Now, they might have been number 1 if the head coach was still there. Remember, Pete Carroll publicly admitted after the NFL draft that they strongly considered drafting Anthony Richardson. They strongly considered it. There was the connection between Carroll and Richardson. Carroll called him the best quarterback athlete ever. Like, tremendous consideration, what was the phrase by Seattle. Now, John Schneider's still there. Seattle traded Sam Howell, who, look, he is who he is. He's, I don't think, a real long-term answer, but he's a fine backup. Geno Smith is clearly better than Richardson and Sam Howell, by the way. And I think Geno's underrated. He's also 34 years old. And in the Ryan Grubb-style offense, I think he actually fits pretty well, which features plenty of vertical shots there. Seattle, with the previous connection and the longer-term need at quarterback, stands out as a underrated but sneaky good fit for Richardson. Now, this is the key question of one reason why teams might be interested. They might not think he's any good. What is your confidence level in Richardson to not go down as a bust? Scale it for me from 1 to 10 in the comments section. But number 1 for me, and I already floated this by my our Giants Now host Marshall Green, and he's like low key is his response. I think it's the New York Football Giants, and I would do this today, or tomorrow, or whenever, and I would get him in lineup as soon as humanly possible. Daniel Jones is not good. We know that. Richardson at least makes big plays happen. He can do things Daniel Jones cannot. He could be, I think he's a strong fit in a Brian Dable offense, given that the Brian Dable offense helped maximize Josh Allen, which is what you're hoping to get out of Anthony Richardson. Now, it's a hope. It maybe isn't the best bet, but if they're going to be drafting at 7 and the quarterbacks go early because it's not a real quarterback class, or they get pushed up or whatever, I think this makes sense. Look, Daniel Jones completing is not good. Like, we don't have to pretend anymore, guys. We're still looking for the first DJ touchdown pass at MetLife in like a year and a half. It's almost 2 years now. It's embarrassing. Like, the Daniel Jones experiment is over. Let's try a new one in Richardson. It might not work, but he's got the upside, and you can give it 2 years and then blow the whole thing up if you need to. Or even just a year, and if it's really bad, maybe you're in Arch Manning range anyway. That assumes Arch is good, by the way, which still don't know. Got to be careful there. Is benching Anthony Richardson the right move? Y for yes, N for no. It is now down to 75% say yes. So some adjustments on that front there. So is benching Richardson the right move? Y for yes, N for no. Let me know in the comments of today's show. Make sure you're subscribed as well. Our World Series Game 4 watch party starts in a little under 2 hours. Don't miss out. Hit that sub button right now. See you guys later.